I'm back for another video. My name is Josh Kastic, and today is my Noir anime review. Now, this is a very interesting anime. Obviously, from the title, it's a noir kind of type series. It's very dark, but the noir in this case doesn't actually mean noir. Actually, is something meaning to the plot, which I will kind of get into as we go on. So, the beginning, the two main characters. Well, essentially, you have this girl named Marielle. She's a highly skilled assassin. She gets hired. She gets paid to do jobs to assassinate people. That's her job. But her past is that her family was murdered, and one of the things she's trying to figure out is who murdered them. And she gets this, I think, call or whatever, and she shows up with this place where this girl kind of what's her name? Her name is Kira. She finds this girl in like a school uniform per se, and she's name is Kirika, and she doesn't have any of her memories. She has lost all her memories. The only thing she remembers is that she's a really skilled assassin to kill people, and she has no emotion in killing people, so she could just shoot them and she wouldn't even care. And she has this identity that she kind of remembers as Kirika, but that isn't her real name, and she's really upset by this because she's kind of living this false identity. She wants to know who she really is, and that's kind of everything she has. And they kind of show up this one place, and she needs, for some reason, she has this idea that Muriel will helping Muriel with or Muriel has the secret of finding her memories or something, and so they kind of show up in this place. Now some other goons show up and they're trying to shoot at them, and obviously Muriel and Kirka able to kill them, and but then they kind of decide to join forces. She thinks that Kirka has the secret to the reason why her family was murdered, and so once they decide to work together until she found Mariel gets her what she wants, and when Kirka gets what she wants. And after that, Mariel will they will try to kill each other, essentially, because is the idea. I don't know. Yeah. But so they create I forgot one more thing. Kirika, another thing she remembers is that this kind of part of this legend called the Noir, and that she's part of this Noir, basically, the idea is that two maidens garden death or whatever, something like that. That's what I can't remember exactly how it goes, but that's kind of the idea behind it. And so they kind of create this. They create this noir. Oh yeah, the noir is an ancient fate of two maidens who garden death with their black hands protect, something like that. I think there's a little bit more to it, but that's something about. That's kind of how goes. There's more parts to this legend from this book as we further go into the plot. But they decided to create a group they called themselves Noir after this ancient fate or this ancient idea of murderers that were way back then. And so they go on missions trying to figure out who they are and assassinating people. But eventually they learn that their enemy is the Soldats, and they're a very ancient enemy who have pretty much everywhere and control everything, and they basically want these two maidens dead or whatever and everything. But they all both get used by. They also both. But there's different factions of the Soldats. There are supposed to be the so-called good ones per se, not really, but you could. And then there's the ones that are really bad. They're not what the Soldats were originally supposed to be. And so basically what I meant by good, I meant more like what the Soldats were originally supposed to be. And then you have that. Well, there are factions that want these two girls dead, and then there's another factions that don't want them dead, and they kind of been unwillingly been kind of being putting missions by the soldats as well. So that's kind of what's going on. Is most of the show is about assassinating people and figuring out what they want. Over time, they meet this girl named Chloe, who kind of works for Athena, who's kind of, I guess, the real true head of the soldats, and she has the entirety of the whole legend. Because apparently, over time, with Chloe, also she claims to be the true Noir, and then eventually they're supposed to. As the story goes on, we learn that Kirka is also part of the true Noir, and the two maidens, and essentially that's what's kind of going on, and they're both supposed to go. They're supposed to both go on these trials, and these trials will train them to eventually finally create this ritual between the two of them that would, I guess, as we learn on, will kind of bring back the soldats to the way it's supposed to be anyway. And actually, the whole legend of Noir actually comes from the soldats. It's always been their two top maiden assassins or whatever it's so called, and that's what they have been called. And we eventually all learn that Mariel's family was part of the soldats as well, and but this Athena person basically somehow knows everything, and she picks these two maidens to become the eventual Noir, and there are potential people and then the potential people that will eventually become the final two, and Mariel is supposed to be one of them, but her parents didn't want her to join that, and so it's revealed that Chloe kind of shoots Kirka, but to get Kirka to remember her everything, and then after that, Chloe reveals that it was Kirka who murdered Mariel's family, and that includes her little brother too. Like that's, but parents, because they refused to give her up to the Noir, and that's kind of what's going on here. But eventually, Kirka's upset by this because they kind of started to have this really big friendship and bond at this time. So it's really kind of frustrating, unfortunate for the both characters. Now Kirka kind of runs away, and Mariel tries to follow her, and Kirka kind of starts falling into a trance of the Noir, I guess, now that everything. And she kills a bunch of other soldats that were after her. As you tell, there's a faction that doesn't want the soldats to return to the way it was because they kind of, made it turn away. Mary follows her, then they kind of confront each other, and she wakens Kirka from a trance, and Kirka tells Mariel to kill her, but Mariel refuses and then leaves. And then Kirka kind of goes on this mission to find Athena. Now, Athena is in this place, I think, between France. Most of this place takes place in Paris and around France, and this Corsica, where Mariel's actually a Corsican, and her family used to run Corsica, like they were like a mob family, I guess you could say, very powerful, and they had this power because of the soldats, but they all lost it after they refused to give up Mariel. And then that's kind of what's going on there. But yeah, so it's somewhere between Spain and France, I think, this place that's supposed to be forgotten by time, no one knows about, and this is where Athena is and where Chloe kind of lives and stuff. And eventually Kirka shows up at this town. They're all soldats, and they're trained mercenaries they kill for the cause. And then the bad soldats show up, trying to get Kirka to end the prophecy, but the villagers were able to shoot them down, and Kirka leaves for the land, where she finally gets there, and she meets Athena, and she kind of convinces her to join them and all this stuff, and then they go off to do this ritual. Where now we go back to Mariel. Eventually, she meets another soldat who wants this entire ritual to stop, and so tells Mariel where this place is, and so Mariel goes finds that place. Now Chloe and Kirka start doing the ritual. It's a very weird scene. Like it gets really, really weird. I'm not gonna go over it because it's just too weird. But they go do the ritual, but then Mariel shows up and kind of stops the ritual. But Kirka's already in a trance because of Chloe, and apparently, and so Kirka starts shooting Mariel, but there's this watch that used to be her father. Mariel has this watch that used to be her dad's, that plays this song that has the two maidens on the front of it for the Noir, and it basically Kirka had it. The last time she saw it was when her father or her family died. But then Kirka, when she found Kirka in the beginning of the series, she had the watch. It's like a pocket watch, and so basically, in the middle of battle, Mary kind of throws it up, and then it falls to the ground and opens up and starts playing. This breaks Kirka out of the trance. And then they kind of go fight Chloe. Chloe gets really mad because she basically, the Noirs are supposed to have this connection between each other, and they're supposed to belong to each other. It's really and stuff like that. And so she's like really upset because she always, like, Kirka was always with Mariel when it was supposed to be her and Kirka. And it's a very and that's kind of how it goes on there. And unfortunately, the kind of battle ensues between Kirka and Chloe and Mariel, but eventually Mariel gets a really bad injury, and it just became like Kirka and Chloe. But then Chloe Kirka actually tries to convince Chloe to stop. And then Chloe stops fighting Kirka and gets one of her daggers and tries to run after Mariel, saying, "It's all your fault." And then Kirka, now earlier, Kirka, in a later scene with Chloe from the show, basically, Chloe took this like kind of fork that was in Kirka's sleeve. It was, basically Kirka used it as a defense capability, defense just in case she gets attacked and didn't have a gun, she could use the fork. And she took the fork, and you know how Chloe's kind of obsessed with Kirka, as I kind of mentioned. She kind of took the fork as a souvenir. Well, in the middle of this battle and stuff like that, Kirka got the fork, and at the last minute ran to stop Chloe and stabbed Chloe right in the chest with a fork, killing Chloe. And then they kind of join up. The Noir. Then Kirka and Mariel go and tries to take down Mariel. Now Athena has these nuns that are also combat. They fight and stuff, and they try to stop Mariel and Kirka, but obviously they're the main characters, so they stop all the nuns. And then there's this other nun who was really loyal to Athena, but once Chloe died, she started to have problems and, thought that Athena's crazy and they're all going to die, so she tries to kill Athena, but Athena ends up killing her. And then there's a whole battle between Athena and Kirka and Mariel, saying, "I knew this outcome from the start. Chloe was going to be killed," which is really weird, because you really do feel bad for Chloe at this point, because it always seemed like Athena really cared about Chloe, raised her and stuff, but she didn't care about Chloe at all. And so it's really kind of frustrating there. But unfortunately, in the middle of the battle, Kirka and Athena kind of fall over this vat of like fire or lava. I can't remember. But Marielle tries to save Kirka. Kirka didn't want to be saved, but she got saved by Marielle, and then Athena embraces death by kind of just falling off into the fire. And that kind of where it's end. And then they kind of leave the building with they're kind of both injured. And then the other heads of the soldiers kind of show up to, and they just kind of walk by. And then there's kind of an ending with a gunshot. We don't know what that is, but I kind of read further on the internet. They didn't get shot or anything like that. They actually kind of go back to Paris and just kind of continue what they were doing, being noir and going on like they get paid to assassinate people, essentially, from what I've read. And that's pretty much everything about the story, guys. I hope you, so that's like the plot. So my overall thoughts, I think it had an interesting story. I was really hard to follow what they were trying to do and where they're going. So it might be really hard to fall into the story because it's hard to follow the plot. But I think the writing was still mostly really well done. The ending was a little weird for me, and especially with the ritual that was just really, it's just out of the blue, and some other, it's like it really just felt forced and didn't really make a lot of sense in the context of what actually happened in the ritual. But other than that, there's kind of that. The characters, I did enjoy the characters. I thought they were interesting. I thought Marielle was and Kirko interesting, had an interesting dynamic. And the animation was really good. But my final thoughts, I just don't think it's really for me, per se. It's just, it's really dark. It's, I expect a lot of death and stuff like that. It's just, it ain't for me, but I do understand its appeal and to why a lot of people do enjoy it. And that's just my overall thoughts, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you're new, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified for my next upload. My YouTube channel website link, my Twitter, my Snapchat, and Instagram are all in the description as always. And thank you. Goodbye.